Johnny.
Coming, don't worry.
We have to remove the tea bag.
Well,
Mario. Mario.
Okay.
Mario. Mario.
I can't hear you.
Mario. Mario.
Yes, we're waiting for Harold. I don't know.
Mario.
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 I guess he doesn't live here.
Okay, we're on Ayin Ches 78. V'hagabi kachim nami nemar shor o kesef. Why doesn't the O there, when it talks about korbanos, which animals are kosher, you cannot make a hybrid between an ox and a sheep, the narbi, but there, shor and kesef are listed as kosher korbanos. So, midaseifa l'ma'ed. So when we said kesef o eight, a sheep or a goat, there you can make a hybrid between a sheep and a goat. Reishanami is l'mayid. For the Mo'adeh Rabba, just the opposite. The Reishal l'Rabba, you say Fanami l'Rabba. Why don't you come to include? Hi, my. How are you going to include? Iyamid bishma l'mayid. So who the itzrich trema uti? So we knew two exclusions. The afagav the imit kloim, even though we've rejected the use of hybrids as a korban, itzrich l'mute nidme. It's a puzzle that if an animal is born that doesn't look exactly like its parent, it's also rejected. And le'yamrit l'rabois, trei ribui lama. Why do we need two inclusions? Hashta kloim irbile. If kloim are going to be marbila korban nidme, but boy, there wouldn't be another need to have a puzzle. Elahada amarav zebon of pomakum shnemar se ein alelotzias akloim. Whenever in the Torah it says set, it means to exclude a hybrid. Lamayilchasa. To what halacha does that refer to? Ila kodshim badeksibuhu. Sure, o kesef o eitz. Prat lekloim. Ila in Meiser, regarding Meiser Beim, giving 1/10 of your animals, that you don't have to be mafresh kloim, you don't have to separate hybrids. That's already learned tachas. Yolif mikotchim. It says tachas by kotchim, tachas by meiser be'ema. Ibachor, it says kol asher yavor tachas hashevet, avor avora. Yolif, mi meiser. Orinami, nidme amart lo, when it comes to a bachor, and you have an animal that gives birth, doesn't look like its parent. It doesn't have a din bechor. Dechsiv, ach bechor shor, ad shehu shor bechor shor. It has to look like its parent. So kloim a boy. So there would be certainly no reason to think that I need a special exclusion for kloim. So elakiyit merava linyan peter chamor. There's a din that the firstborn of a donkey, you have to bring a set as its redemption. Kidisna. Ein point lo ba'egel v'lo b'chaya. You can't redeem a peter chamor, not with a calf, not with a deer. Lo b'shchuta v'lo b'treifa. Not with an animal that was shechted, not with an animal that's alive, it's a treifa. Lo b'kloim, not with a hybrid between a ram and a sheep. V'lo b'kvi. Well, Rabbi Eliezer shemate b'kloim. Rabbi Eliezer says you're allowed to redeem a peter chamor from kloim. This is not Rabbi Eliezer mate b'kloim. Neshu said, "Lamai hilchasa." What is Rava's din coming to teach Rabbi Eliezer? Armelacha Rabbi Elazar ki itmar Rava Tamesh shenoled min hator v'ibiro min hatome. Let's say you have a sheep that an animal that's an unkosher animal lived with it. So the vlad is aser bachil. And that's Shalok Rabbi Yeshua. Dib Rabbi Yeshua, there's another pasuk. Zosa be Moshe tochelu. Shor sex avim v'seizim nafkale. The plural kvasim teaches me that the vlad is not mutter bachila, adshe aviv keves v'imo kivsa. Until its father and its mother were sheep. Two kosher animals. So the Gemara doesn't understand. Ta'ira mitami mima abra. How can a tar animal become pregnant from a non-kosher species? The species cannot impregnate each other. Versus it can't. The kaimalon, the over mikol it korb shimon. If you have an animal, it's a kosher animal, but it was born with fused hooves, not split hooves. It looks like a behemoth to me. That's like according to Reb Shimon, that in that if such an animal had relations with a kosher animal, the vlad would be tummy. Boy Rava. Hare alai ola. A man, Ruvain, says, I want to bring an ola. V'hifrish. Now, an ola you can bring from a cow, you can bring from a sheep, you can bring from a goat. The most expensive would be a cow. So that's mitzvah min hamufchar. Hifrish shor. He designated a shor. Uba'achar v'ganav. A thief comes and steals it. And now he has to return to the person who he stole from. Mi poter ganav nafshe bekeves l'rabbanon. And be'oila sa'of Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. According to the Chachamim, a person can bring a keves as an olah. According to Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, you can bring in a bird. So as the ganef doesn't have to return a cow. The guy had an olah. So I have to return to him an animal that can be used as an olah. This not. Where do we see the machlokas? Harei ala oila yavi keves. So the Tanna Kama says you can get away with just a sheep. Rav Elazar ben Azariah, yavi tor o ben yona. You can bring a bird. And the halachic question for us, my. The guy that got stolen from made a ned there to bring an olah. So the ganef, when he returns, can say, I'm giving you back an olah. I have to give you back a short. The owner can say, I wanted to fulfill this mitzvah the best way possible with the most expensive shore. So you have to give me back a shore. Basar di Iboye, after he asked the question, Hadar Pasha, he answered it for himself. Ganav patar atzma bekeves l'das rabbanon, and be'oilas ha'oif l'das Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. The Ganav gets away with giving back either a sheep, according to Rabbanon, or a bird, according to Rabbi Elazar. He learned it a little differently. Amar Rava, Harei alai oila, v'hifri shor, uba'achar gnavo, pater atzma bekeves, l'rabbanon of oilas ha'oif, l'Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. New Mishnah. Machra chutz me'echad b'mei Shabbat. A Ganav stole a cow or a sheep, and he sold 99% of it, but retained 1% for his own use. Is that considered a sale that he has to pay dalvei? Oh, shai solobu shutafut. Before it was stolen, it was owned in partnership. Maybe he owned part of it. He owned part of it. So he was allowed to sell the part that he owned. So in both of these cases, you would be potter from paying dal vehi. Or hashoichet v'nisnavla biyado. You shechted the animal, but it became in the vela. Or hanoicher. You killed it through other means than shchita. Or hama'akir. You pulled out its esophagus and its trachea completely. So in all of these cases, mishan tashlume kefel, but ve'einu mishan tashlume arba v'chamish. You pay kefel as a ganev, but you don't pay the dal vehe. My chutz me'echad v'me'er shebo. What do you mean, the Gemara asked, that you didn't sell 100% of the animal? Amar Rav, chutz midavra niter imo b'shchita. That means it has to be something that allows you to use it through shchita. Meaning,
Ernie,
Yes.
Ernie, just
Yes.
this end of the Mishnah, I don't understand, because the Mishnah had started off that he owned 1%, right? He was a shut, he owned 1% of it.
No. These are all four different cases.
4 different cases,
First case, he sold it, but he retained some part of the animal.
right?
Case 2, he was a shutuf before he stole it. He was a shutuf with the guy he stole it from. He owned 50% of the animal, and he stole it.
Right.
And then he sells it.
So why
Right.
does he have to? Why would he have to pay kefil? He would only have to pay. He would pay kefil on the other chelek. Why would he have to pay kefil on the whole animal? That's what I don't understand about the
He
Mishnah.
pays kefil he pays kefil on the part he stole. The
You
part
sure?
that
I don't know.
stole,
That's not what the Mishnah says, though.
it's
That's not what the Mishnah.
Mishalem tashlumo kefil, ve'einu mishan tashlumo arba v'chamisha. He's not going to have to pay for the part that he owned. If he owns 50%, so he stole 50%, it's $1,000. $500, it's his. $500, so you'll have to
Yeah,
pay
but he
the
messed up the animal here when he stole it. He messed up the animal. And talking about it.
There are 4 different cases.
Okay. I got it. I understand. Just okay.
Second case is shutafut. Third case, shoichet and became an avela. Noicher ma'aker. In all these cases, he didn't do a shchita. The first 2 cases are dealing with mechira. The second 3 cases are dealing with an invalid shchita. That's why you don't pay dal vehe.
That's he did it, but he did the shchita.
He did the shchita. When in all of these cases where we're talking about mochar utava, when you pay dal vehe, the ganef himself did the shchita. Yes. But he didn't do it correctly in these Mishnah's cases. He made it in a vela when he shechted it. He went through and cut the spinal cord, or he made it in a vela, or he was noicher. He pulled out the esophagus and the trachea. So
Okay, I got it.
Not a good shchita. So therefore, it doesn't. So now the Gemara is dealing with the first part of the Mishnah, selling it. But when I sold it, this animal didn't belong anything to me. I stole an animal, it doesn't belong to me. Now I try to sell it. When I sell it, I retained certain rights. I didn't sell 100% of the animal. And the Gemara now want to know, what does that mean? So Rav says, I retained something that otherwise needs shchita to be matured. Give me an example. You have a sheep. Do I need shchita to benefit from the wool? No, I just can shear the wool. But do I need shchita to eat from the thigh? Yeah. So says Rav, if I retained ownership in the thigh, that's when I don't pay dal vehe. But if I only retained ownership in the sheep, I don't need shchita for the sheep. So the shchita took care of 100% of what was needed. You'd have to pay dal vehe. That's what Rav says. Chutz midavra niter imo b'shchita. Levi Omar chutz migizoseh. Levi says just the opposite. That if I retain even the wool, even though I don't need shchita to use the wool, that's enough to say that the mechira was not a full mechira to exclude me from paying dal vehe. V'chein tani b'masnisa. And so too is in a baraisa. Let's say I sell the animal, but I retain the right to the wool. I don't have to pay dal vehe. According to Rav, I would have to pay dal vehe because I don't need shchita to be matir the wool. Meisvei. We're going to ask a kasha on Rav. Machra chutz miyada. I sold the Ganav sold the animal except its foreleg, or chutz miragla except for the back leg, chutz mikarna except for its horn, chutz migizo seha eina mishanta shemi arba v'chamisha. That's the Tanakam. Rabbi Oimer dover hama'akev v'shchita. It's only if you retain something that requires shchita, like so. Then eina mishanta shemi arba v'chamisha. But she'ena ma'akev v'shchita, if he retained for himself the horn or the wool, the shanta shemar v'chamisha. That's Rebbe. Obviously, Rav is going like Rebbe. Rav Shimon Elazar Oimer, only chutz mikarna. If I retain the horn, eina mishanta shemar v'chamisha, because that's part of the animal. Chutz migizo seha, mishanta shemar v'chamisha. If I sell it, but I still retain ownership in the wool, I do have to pay down. It's not considered a whiffle. So now the Gemara analyzes. Bishma Levi, Levi holds like the Tanakama. The Tanakama, this Baraisa clearly said, Chutz migizo seh, so that's Levi. Elele Rav Kiman. Who's Rav going like him? Amri, Rav da Amr ki Haitana, different Tana, the Tanya. Rav Shimon Lazar Oimer, Machar chutz miyada v'chutz miragla. The foreleg and the back leg, you can't eat that without shchita. Eino shanta shemar v'chamisha, so that's Rav. But chutz mikarna or chutz migizo seah, if I retain the horn or the wool, mishanta shemar v'chamisha, that's Rav. Now, b'mai kamiflagi, what is the nakuda of their machlokas here? So Tanakama Sava, it says utvacho o mecharo, you shall shecht or sell. So can you shecht half an animal, or can you do half a shchita? No. Utvacho kula ba'inan. You can't do a partial shchita. Machro kula ba'inan. So in order to be chayiv, dalvei, even the gizo seha has to be sold. Even the wool has to be sold. If you retain the wool, it's not considered a good sale. Rebbe Savar, utvacho means mididavid betvicha. The part of the animal that needs shchita in order for you able to use it. Lafika mididilavya betvicha. To exclude things that I don't need shchita for, like the horn. You can take the horn off without shchita and I can use it. And the wool as well. So similarly, umachro domi letvicha. Things that are permitted through shchita, if you withhold those things, it's going to say that the mechira is deficient. Why does Reb Shimon Elazar say only the horn? So karna de lemizga kaima. Now, a horn is not normally removed. So it's not there to be removed. It's not really separate from the goof of the animal. So if I retain it, it's considered a retention. But gizoseha, a sheep's wool grows, we shear it, then it grows again. It's meant to be cut. Law of shear. That's not considered that I retained something of the animal when I sold it. And therefore, Misham Tashima Arba V'chamisha. The Idich Tana of Rav Shimon Elazar Savar, Yoda V'Roglo, the Tzricha Tvicha. I can't use its hand, its foreleg and its feet without Tvicha. So that's considered Avishir. That's considered that I retained something when I sold. And therefore I didn't sell it completely. I can remove the horn of an animal and use it without shchita. And the same with its sheep. So that's law of Ishir. So Kasha Rav Shimon Elazar on Rav Shimon Elazar, we brought a brisa that seemed to be not the same. Trei Tanoi, I'll leave it to Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar. Argument in two Tanoim, what was Rav Shimon Elazar's shita? Torah Hagoinev hakiteis. An animal is stolen that's missing a leg. Vesachigeres, missing a foreleg. Vesasuma, or blind animal. And I shechted it or sold it. V'chein hagoinev behemis hashutafim. I steal an animal belonging to partners. Chayiv b'daveh. I have to pay daveh. Shutafim sheganvu. But let's say two partners steal and they shecht or sell pturim. Freit Gemara v'atanya shutafim sheganvu chayavim. Two brises against each other. Amrav Nachman loy kasha. Kan, when they're potter, b'shutav sheganim mechavero. Like we described the previous, when we're describing our Mishnah. Let's say he and a partner own a cow. He owns 50% of it, and I steal it. So if I steal from my friend, since I have some bilas in it, when I shecht it or sell it, I didn't sell the whole thing, then I'm potter. But kan b'shuta sheganov me'alma. Two partners that go and steal a cow that doesn't belong to them, so they're going to be chayiv like regular thieves. Eisra Rav Nachman. Yachol shuta sheganov mechaveiro. I might think that as shutaf the bar that stole from his friend, who he owns it with. V'shutafim sheganvu yechayavim tamadlomer utvacho. Kula ba'ina v'leka. Just like shchita, it's got to be 100%, and there isn't 100% because he owned 50%. On Rav Nachman loy kasha. Shuta shedavach l'das chaveiro. If his friend the shutaf that shechted, the two partners stole. One of the partners shechted, the other partner agreed with the shechita. They have to pay. When their potter is b'shutaf shetavach shalol das chaver. So since the other partner didn't agree, there's no half payment. There's no payment at all. By Rav Yirmiyah. Machra chutz shloishim yom. The Ganav stole the animal, kept it for 30 days. Used it. And then he sold it. Chutz mimlachta. He sold it, but he kept the work benefit of the animal for himself. Or chutz me ubra. The animal was pregnant, and he retained the fetus for himself. Mao. Is it considered like a complete sale? Because he sold the goof of the animal or not? So I'll leave it in Mandamar Uber Yerech Imo. So how do you view a fetus? If a fetus is viewed just like the thigh or another limb of the animal, so lo tabaylacha. So then it's no shayla, no shayerba. It's like as if he retained a leg. Because if you're going to say the uber is a chelik of the animal, so it would not be considered a good mechira. According to Mandomer, that says the uber is an independent entity. My. Do we say, ha memer amrinon, kivin shemachuberu avishir? Listen, even though it's an independent entity, right now it's connected to the animal. So if I sell it and retain it, I'm not selling the whole animal. So I should be potter. It's eventually going to leave the animal. It's going to get born. And he won't be chelik of the goof. So law of Ishir, it's not considered that I retained part of it. Ikid Yamri, other people learn the dialogue differently. Kivin de Laviarchimohu, since it's not considered like its leg, so Lavi Shir. It's not a retention of the sale. Odilma, Kivin Shetzarch Liishtri Bada. B'shchita, you can't. Eventually it's going to need its own shchita. And even before it's born, you can't eat it, but you got to shech the mother. So it's kaman sheshar begufe dami. It's considered if I retain the leg. So there's no answer to these questions. Teku. Boy Rav Papa. Ganva. Kita. He removed a part of the animal. Umachra. And he sold it without that part of the animal. Mal. Me, I mean, my shagana zavin. That which he stole, he didn't sell. So he's not chayiv on the mechira. What he sold, he didn't retain anything in the sale. Again, take. Okay, we'll stop here. So again, we will learn the next time, God willing, Monday night, 9 p.m.